So now that we've basically just gone briefly through the default I don't know, templates that you get from ASP.NET MVC, I'd like to start exploring this project a bit more, so you can see what actually happens and then what we can do with it. So first of all, you'll notice this Solution Explorer, and then this is the equivalent of Solution or Projects Explorers that you have in other environments. And there are a couple of areas here that or folders here that are particularly interesting to us now. And since we're building an MVC application, Model View Controller, it makes sense to focus on those folders for now. So you'll notice that there's a views folder down here, which already has a couple of views for us. There's a models folder, which has a couple of models already, as I mentioned when we log on. That login or that register a new accounting, that's a data-driven thing as well. So it's actually represented by these two models that come out of the box here. We have controllers, and as you can see, a couple of controllers already in here. One home controller, which is the one that's used for the web page that starts up, and the about page and the contact page, which is basically used to show these pages. That's basically the MVC parts of these folders here. So let's start doing a couple of things here with this project. First of all, I mentioned that you could have external providers to do authentication if you wanted to do that. Now I know that in some languages that's a lot of, or in some frameworks it's a lot of work to get these to run and basically make them behave the way that you want them. In the templates, the MVC templates in ASP.NET, it's extremely simple. So we have this class file here. CS files are class files in C#, which is called startup.auth. And if you open this, don't worry about the rest of the code for now. I just wanted to show you how easy this is. Here you can see that there are already code templates that are commented out now, and these double slashes, they're commented out. But there are already providers available for you for Microsoft Authentication, Twitter and Facebook, and Google Authentication. So if we wanted to use Google, which is the simplest one right now, just need to uncomment this line. And as simple as that, now I can just hit play again. Or start or debug, whatever you want to call that. Once we've done that, you'll notice that when I now go to my login page, everything, well, at least if you give me a couple of seconds to get everything up and running. This, as I said, has to do with this being a virtual machine, so it's not as fast as running, bare metal. But if I go into the login page now, you'll notice that already we have the option of logging in using Google. Right, so I can click this button now, and that would basically take me to Google to log on. And if I did that, basically the template already has everything set up, so I get all the information I need back from Google, and the user will be added to the local database so that I can now work with that user locally. What the various providers expose are depends on the provider, but basically that's as simple as it is. I just needed to uncomment one line of code, and suddenly I now have support for authentication with Google. The other provider is a bit more complex, because now, for instance, if you're working with Facebook, you need to register to get an app ID and an app secret. If you have that already, this is basically nothing to do with ASP.NET. It's just how Facebook wants to have applications running. But you get an app ID and you get an app secret. You just copy and paste these in here, uncomment these 3 lines, and poof, now you have Facebook login, which works as easy as the Google authentication that I just mentioned for you. So we'll leave this for now. I mentioned that I wanted to focus on these MVC things, right? So, and we're building a leads application. So let me show you briefly how we do that. So, what I do in MVC, because I have this framework behind it, which is called the entity framework. What I need to do, or there are 2 approaches, but what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to work with just classes. This is what's called code first approach to the entity framework. And what that does is that by creating normal, .NET or object-oriented classes. When I create a class, the entity framework will basically be able to pick that up and do all the data mapping to a database for us. And just to, this is what we're going to do now. We're going to create the various views that we need in order to manipulate that data. And we're going to create all the pages that we need to do that. So right now it's 18:15. Let's see how quickly we can actually get that done. I'm going to create a class called lead because we're going to capture some leads here. All right, so we'll add that. This is how a class looks in C#. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple of properties here. I'm going to have a grid or whatever you want to call them, which is called ID. This is by convention, by the way. Just having a property called ID makes sure that, or makes that into an ID field in the database. Obviously, we want to get something like a string for a name, and perhaps we also want a string for an email or something like that, right? So very, very simple object for now. We're not going to do anything fancy for the moment. We're adding 3 lines of code, and I'm going to hit Control S to save it, and I'm going to hit Control Shift and B to build everything to make sure that my code compiles and everything like that. So there are no surprises later. So this is the model. This is the data that I want to map to a database. So the next thing I want to do then is I want to add a controller to use for this particular lead class that we have. So I'll go right click and I'll hit add and I'll hit controller. You'll see that there are some different controllers that are available for us in this case. And I'm going to go with the MVC 5 controller with views using the entity framework, right? So you can see we have different options here. These web API ones, extremely cool if you want to have a data-driven application rather than, have actual web pages where people would add that if you're building a mobile app or something like that. Very cool, and I'll show you more about those later. But for now, I'm going to select the MVC controller with views using the entity framework. So I'll just hit add, and let's call this leads controller, right? And then I'm going to select a class that I'm going to be using. And as I said, we created this lead one, so I think that one makes sense. Now we need to add a data context, and the data context in this sense is, or in this context, is how are we accessing our data, right? So you have a ton of options here. The one that you get sort of more or less out of the box works in a lot of the cases, but you can as easily as anything replace them with anything else if you want to do that. I can explore those in more detail in just a few moments. So for now though, I'm going to create a new data context. Basically just tell it what kind of name you want. You can name it anything, doesn't really matter. We'll hit add, and I just want to make sure that I generate all the views that I want. I want to reference the script libraries. These are JavaScript libraries in the views and everything, so we know that that's going to end up in the pages. And I can also choose to have a layout page. A layout page you can think of as a template for the web pages, and we'll get more to that when we look at Razor a bit later. For now, I'm just going to say that, I'd like to use a layout page, but I'm going to leave it blank because there's by convention, Razor will basically ask you, or if you have a blank layout page, it'll use the view start view that's available here. We'll look at those also in a moment. So for now, I'm just going to hit add. And Visual Studio will now scaffold out everything for us. So the only thing we've actually done here, we created this lead class. We said that we have an ID here. We have a name and an email. That's what we want to capture from people. And then we, right-clicked and pointed to a couple of things. And now we're done. This is how long it took. So with my explanation, it takes 4 minutes. And what we can do now is we can actually fire this one up. Again, I'm just hitting F5 to start running this. And what you'll see now is that once the application comes back up, we can actually go to /leads like this. And the MVC will now route that request to the classes that was created for us just a moment ago. So what you'll see now in just a few moments, there's actually a bug here, and I'll need to excuse Microsoft for sending out code that doesn't actually work. But what you'll see is that we now have a separate site where we have an index of all the contacts that we have. There's no ID here because you don't mess with the ID. That's database driven, right? The database will take care of that. If I create now, there's going to be a bug. Just wanted to warn you about that. It's because there's a bug in the template that you get from out of the box. I'm not sure if they fix it in a later version, but it's there now. It's very easy to fix. You'll see here that we have these views down here, which is for creating, deleting, viewing details and editing, and then showing the list of everything. And for some reason, in the create template, if you look down here, there's a line that's double. So we need to remove that. And notice that what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to say everything is still up and running. So I'm just going to hit save now, and I'm going to refresh. And now we have a page to create a new lead, right? So we'll say, test lead like that, which is test@example.com. And we'll hit create. And now we have a list of the leads that we have created. If we want to add new ones, we can keep doing that. We can say test person, right, which is test2@example.com. Like that. By the way, the reason why they come up quickly is because of Chrome. It's not ASP.NET doing that. But basically, this is how extremely simple we can make stuff. We can go in now and we can say I wanted to change this, so I want to edit everything here. Let's say the first test lead like that, right? We're going to save that. And now everything is updated. You can go in and look at the details, right? So everything is working as expected. We can delete leads, right? Warnings and everything like that. And so this is basically how quickly we can take a normal C# class and get that on a web solution that we already have, right? So and as I said, so far extremely simple stuff, not going to do anything extremely fancy so far. But this video has shown you, first of all, how easy it is to change these providers. If you wanted to go with something like Facebook, Twitter, Google, Microsoft Authentication, it's basically as quickly as register on those services to get the application data that you need, uncommenting a couple of lines and copying and pasting the details you get from those providers. Google is very simple because they don't use any of that, so they'll just you don't need to register for anything. And I've shown you how quickly you can create a class using the entity framework and have MVC scaffold out both the controllers and the views and everything for you, even creating the database behind the scenes that you didn't see right now, but that we'll explore in more detail later. And so that's what we saw in this video. And in the next video, I'd like to, go a bit deeper and see what actually happens here and how we can start manipulating this code, because so far we just, pointed and clicked that stuff and it's created all the code for us. So in the next video, let's see what we can actually do to, build this ourselves.